Alright, so this is a follow-up video in the previous video I made, and basically there was an audio synchronization problem in the previous video, so I'm just updating this at that video, and basically I'm going to go through the moving an SVG file in a React application using keyboard inputs. Okay, so this is what it's going to look like. So it's not going to be anything pretty. It's just going to be, I'm just going to show you how to do it, and you can make it pretty if you want. Okay, so this is what it's going to be able to do. Okay, so I'm just going to go Control-Shift-I to open up my console. Oops, Control-Shift-I. Yeah, so I've got my console open. So now I've got this container, blue container thing, and all it's doing is it's taking my inputs. Okay, so if I select it, it will be able to take my inputs. If I press my buttons on my keyboard, it's gonna register that in my console here. If you can see on the right hand side on the console, it's registering all those inputs. And then I've tightened those inputs to my SVG file, so I can actually control it using when I press my arrow keys, I can actually control it. So if I select it again, I can actually control it. And normally a user might not know that they have to press this thing to actually select to be able to get their inputs to the computer. So I've actually made this connected to this button. So if I press this button, I'm actually going to select this. So I press this. This is now selected, and I can now press my keys. Okay. So this is what the final thing's going to be able to do. I'm just going to quickly go through it because I've made a video on it before. There was just a tiny bit of problem there. Okay. So I'm not going to go through creating a React application and everything from scratch. I'm just going to show you how to do it. Okay. So I've got a basic app.js file, and all it's doing right now is it's got a h1 tag, and it's not doing anything. So if I save this, and if I go back to my localhost, I refresh it, and it's not showing. Oh, there it is. So that's just my h1 tag stuff. Okay, so now I'm going to create a component. So I've got a folder here. I've got another file here, but I'm just going to ignore that file for now. I'm just going to create another file. I'm going to say new component.js. Okay, and I'm just going to do an RCC. It's going to let me create a React class component. I'm using some extension to do that. I can't remember which one. I'll let you know in the description. Okay, so in this component, what I'm going to do. So first things first, I'm going to create an input just to show you how you could select a component in React. Input of type equals text, and I'm going to create a placeholder equals put text here. Okay, and I don't want it to be closing like that. I want it to be self-closing, so I'm going to close it like that. And I also want a button, so I'm going to go button and just say click me. Okay, and save it. And so I'm actually going to make this capital letter and save it, and I'm going to go in my app.js and bring that component in. So import new component from /component/new component, and save that. So let's just have a look, and I'm going to refresh this. Whoa, nothing's appearing. I wonder why. I wonder why, indeed. Okay, let's go back to my new component, and what went wrong? Interesting. Oh yeah, we didn't actually bring it in here. So I'm going to say new component and close it like that. Save it. Okay, so there it is. So I can put my text in here, and I can click this button, but it's not going to do anything because we haven't told it to do anything yet. Okay, so what I want the button to do is when I click on the button, I want it to select this input field here. Okay, that's all I want the button to do right now. So I'm going to go into my new component. I'm going to close this my component thing, and I'm going to go. So I'm gonna bring in something called reactRef. It's going to basically let us reference a DOM component, just like we do in basic JavaScript, but we can't do that in JSX. So, well, we can do it in JSX, but this is the way to do it instead of the other way, right? So I'm gonna create a constructor, and I'm gonna super, and in here, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna bring the create ref. So I'm just going to create a variable called this.text field equals react dot create ref. I can't type today. Create ref like that. Okay. And now we can use this variable to reference a DOM component. So in my input, I could go in here and using the ref property, ref equals, I can reference it. So this dot text field like that. Okay. So now what I'm going to do in the button, I'm going to use the onClick property. OnClick equals this dot boolean press. Okay. So that's a function we're going to now create to be able to do something. So above render, I'm going to go btn press and like that. And so what I'm going to do is use this reference to focus this component here. Okay. So I'm going to go this dot text field dot current dot focus like that and save it. So if I go into my React application here, so if I click on this button now, it's going to give me an error, and that's because we forgot to bind this function. So we need to bind this function, otherwise it's not going to know what this means when you press that button, because that's in a different structure. So I'm going to go and bind this. So this dot btn press equals this dot btn press dot bind this, save, and if you go back, whoops, if we go back here and if I click this, it's going to actually select this field. So that's basically how you select a form type of thing. So an input tag is a form type. But what if you want to select something that's not form type, that's just a HTML element, but it's not form type? So I'm going to show you how to do that now. So I'm going to create a container. So in my app.css, I've got this class style, which is basically using a CSS grid to as a template, and I'm just doing some basic styling. So you can have it you can have anything really, which is not a form. All I'm trying to show you here is how to select something that is not a form type. Okay, so I'm just going to use that class to style a new component. So I'm just going to go dot grid container, and yep. And what else I'm going to do? I'm going to do let's just say, I'm just going to put some text in there. So this is my div container, and also, yeah, so in order to be able to select a grid container, an HTML element which is not a form type, you need to give it a property called tab index. Okay, normally in HTML we use tab index to tell a browser in which sequence to select a HTML element when you press the tab key. But in React we can actually use it to select an element which is not a form type. So I'm going to give it a tab index, and I'm going to set it equal to -1. Okay, and if I go here, and so also we need to reference this. Okay, so I'm going to create a new reference for this, and I'm going to go in constructor. I'm going to go this dot grid ref would be fine, and I'm going to set it equal to this dot this is react dot create ref. Okay, and I'm going to use the reference property in here again to reference it, equals this dot grid ref, like that. Whoops, not create ref, grid ref. Right, so now we'll be able to select this container that we created. Let's just have a look at what it looks like. Okay, save, and this is our container thing. It looks very ugly, and yeah, it looks ugly. Let's just keep it at that. Okay, so now what we want to do is to be able to select it. So I'm going to create another button for us to be able to select it. So I'm going to create a button. Sorry, I'm just going to create the easy way out. Ah, God. BUTTO and I'm going to create an onClick equals this dot select grid, and that's the function we're going to create now. So I'm going to go here. This select grid, and I'm going to say this dot gridref dot current dot focus, like that. Okay, and what else? So yeah, for now that's all we're gonna do. Save, and if I press this, whoops, our button doesn't say anything. Okay, we need to say something to the button so we can actually see it. And I don't want it to be self-closing like that. I want it to be closing properly. Okay, and I'm gonna say select grid, save, and if we go here, if I press this, oh yeah, we haven't bound that function. So I'm going to copy this, Control C, so I didn't need to copy it, it's easier to type it. This dot grid, this dot select grid equals this dot select grid dot bind this. Okay, and save that. And if we go here, you shouldn't be able to see it, but maybe you can. There's like a blurring effect when I press this button. That means I can actually select it. Okay, so now what we're going to do is take our input in this field, in this container. So we're not actually, like, this container is not actually printing it like in a form component, but we can actually do something with the input later on. But right now all we're doing is when this component is selected, we can take input from the keyboard, because otherwise if we don't know what's selected, so we can't just tell our application to do something with an input, because that input might actually be, you know, moving the scroll bar on your page or something. So in order for you to be sure that you're actually taking in an input and to be able to do something with it, we need to take it somewhere. But we need to select something where we can actually take the input. Okay, so now that we can select it using that button, or we can actually click on it to select it. Now that we've added the tab index property to it, we're gonna take some input to it. And taking an input once you've added the tab index property to a non-form type element is very easy. And the way you do that is using something called a property called on key down. Okay, and I'm gonna set that equal to on key down. Set that equal to I'm gonna take in the event, which is something that it's gonna return us. And for now, I'm just gonna do console.log event.key, like that, and I'm going to save it. And if I go back here and press this to select that, and if I press my buttons, it's actually going to give me in the console the buttons I'm pressing. Okay, and so if I press one button more than once, it's actually going to give me the number as well. So like that. And now that we've got that, we want something to control, right? So I'm going to bring in an SVG file from Double3 Skills, and I'm going to go and learn HTML, and come down here to HTML SVG, and let's look. I think I like this one, so I'm going to copy this and bring it into our file. So I'm going to bring it after this div, so our SVG, save that, and it's obviously going to give me an error. If I go to the browser or go to the React application, it's giving me an error. Okay, so, and that's because this is not how you do styling in JSX. So let me show you how to fix that. So first things first, I'm going to put brackets around it to tell it it's a JavaScript property, not an HTML, and another curly brace to tell it it's a styling body. Okay, and now I'm going to put that in quotes, and that as well, because it's not value. And also, remember, JSX doesn't let us use hyphens or dashes to name things. So I'm just going to get rid of that and make a camel case. And also I'm going to get rid of semicolons, and replace them with commas. Not that way, this way. Ooh, like that. So now it should be alright, except it doesn't want that. Okay, save that. And if I go back here, we've got our SVG component, okay? And I can go back and resize it because it's too big for me. I'm going to make it 50 and 50, save that. And now it looks better. Okay, so now we need to control this SVG. That's what we're aiming for here. So what I'm going to do is, I think the best way to do it is using states in HTML. I mean, sorry, in React application. So I'm going to create my state with this. Just going to give it a gap. This dot state equals let's say SVG x equals 0 and SVG y equals 0. And I'm gonna go down here in key down, and instead of console.logging it, I'm gonna call the function. So like that, this dot take key press. It's a mouthful. And as a parameter, I'm going to take an event. Okay, take key press. Okay, so now I'm going to create that in here. Oops. What am I doing? Take key press, and I'm going to pass an e. And what do we need to do? I'm just going to console.log. The same thing with what we were doing down in the on key down property. So just console.log our event.key and see if it works. So same thing, just in this case we're calling it through a function. So if I click on this, it should have selected this, and if I press my keys, yes, it's showing me the keys that I'm pressing in my console. Okay, so we know it works. Now I'm going to go back here, and what we're going to do here is create a switch case. Oh, first thing, I'm actually going to bring in our variables that we created in our state. So I'm going to say const SVG x. So I'm using destructuring to take those variables out. This is state, but I'm not actually changing those variables because I'm bringing them out in a different variable. SVGY equals this dot state, like that. And now I'm going to use switch case to see what buttons we're pressing. So e dot key and case arrow up. In case it's arrow up, we're going to do set state. This does set state. Yeah, it corrected me. SVG y, because it's up, so we are in vertical axis, right? So SVG y is going to be equal to SVG y. So this is the SVG. This is the actual variable. So this is not the variable. This is the variable that we brought in here, but that is the variable in our state. Okay. So I'm going to do up is minus, so -5. So that number will decide the speed with which your object will move. Okay. And I'm going to do break like that. Do Control C. Undo. Pretty is going to fix it for me. Go down, left, right, and here we're going to go down is +5 and left. Whoops, not left. So left is that way, which is minus, but it's minus in x-axis. So I'm going to go and this is x-axis as well, and it's plus, right, like that. I'm going to save it, and what I'm going to do now is let's just show you that it works. So in my select grid, I'm also going to do a console.log this dot state dot svgx and console.log svg, sorry, this dot state dot svgy, just to show you that we're actually changing those state variables, right? So I'm going to save it, and I'm going to go here and select this. So see, when I press that button, it gave us SVGX and SVGY, and right now it's zero, they're both 0. But when I press, I'm going to press right arrow key like 10 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, so it's 10 times 5, so now our SVGX should be 50. So if I press that button again, it gives us 50 here, okay? And same for down, if I press down arrow key like 10 times, it's going to give us SVGY as 50 as well, okay? Right, so we know that works. So now all we need to do is connect those numbers to our SVG file. And the way we're going to do that is we're going to go down into render, and I'm going to bring in our SVG. So I'm actually not going to do destructuring here. I'm just going to do svgx equals this.state.svgx.toString. So we need to convert that into string because remember our SVG image takes in string values. Constant SVG y equals this.state.svg y.toString, like that. And what I'm going to do here is, yeah, that should be fine. And save it. Whoops. I mean, first we need to like bring it here, right? Not in width, sorry, in the position. So this is going to be svgx, and curly braces svgx, and down here we're going to say svgy, and save that. And if I go here and so press this to select the div component, and if I press my keys now, arrow keys, we can actually control our SVG image file. And notice it's actually disappearing after a while. That's because it's running out of the container that it's given. So we can actually increase the size of that container here. So I'm going to make that 800 and make that 480. Save. And whoops, it's not selected. So yeah, and there we go. We can play around in a bigger area now. Still going to disappear at a point, yeah. Let's bring it back. Okay, so that would be the end of this video. Hopefully you enjoyed it, and hopefully this turned out better than the last video. Thank you.